Hey, it's good to be back. Today I want to talk about a band that took me 30 years to find, almost, of my life. I found them when I was 29, and I just turned 30 this year. So just within the last year and a half is I finally found a certain band that it was just, I was embarrassed that it had taken me this long to find them because my whole life since I was 15 has been dedicated to finding bands, lots of bands, obscure bands, and I've had tools to help me find those bands, and they helped me start this channel, including Last FM, which is an epic site for finding bands from all over the world. But this band somehow I had never heard, and being a lover of this type of music, it bothered me. So I thought I would give them a shout out, even though they're not strictly a stoner band or a doom band. They're not strictly within this channel's subgenre, but they have enough traits that I think a lot of you would enjoy this band, and maybe if I haven't found them for this long, maybe some of you haven't found them either. And there is an album that I do have that reminded me a lot when I heard this band. They reminded me a lot of this album that I own. I was like, I've heard this somewhere before. And that album is called this, The Gun Club. The band is called The Gun Club. Fire of Love by The Gun Club. Now this is a band and album that's, I could make a video on these guys, just all on its own. It deserves its own video because they're a fantastic band, and this album is absolutely fabulous. So what band reminded me of the Gun Club, Fire of Love? Well, they're called the Flamin Groovies, ladies and gentlemen, which were putting out music that sounded like this about 10 years before this album. So if you know the Gun Club, it's, post-punk, kind of a garage bluesy post-punk, hardcore type of band like that. They play that kind of, post-punk, like the Birthday Party and stuff like that. And I really enjoy that because it's always got a lot of grittiness to it. It's got a lot of attitude, and just a lot of atmosphere that I really enjoy. Now this band, I had no idea they existed, and they pretty much invented this style that I really do enjoy. A sort of post-punk type of, a more metal and bluesy infused, riff-heavy type of punk. The good kind of punk with that great riff playing, more developed, lengthier songs, bluesier passages. For fans of stoner stuff, it's better than just straight punk. It's this post-garage blues punk type stuff. Like the Cows, like Birthday Party, bands like that. So the Flamin Groovies, they were really pioneering that subgenre of music 10 years before it became really big in the 80s. So I was really embarrassed that I hadn't found the Flamin Groovies until now in my life. But hey, better late than never. So I didn't mention it, but one of their original singers and leaders of the band, Loney, passed away in 2019. So rest in peace to Loney. Loney was pretty much the heart and soul of the band. They were never quite as good after he left the band, which he had left the band after their first 3 albums, and they were never quite as good after that. He really gave them that attitude. So I'm going to get into a presentation today about the Flamin Groovies. We're going to talk about their career, and I'm just going to go over some of their best stuff, some of my favorite songs, and hopefully introduce a few new people to Flamin Groovies. that are behind just like I was. So enjoy the presentation. Thanks for watching, guys. Hello, my SMOD friends. This is Clint, your fearless SMOD leader, checking in. I just wanted to talk today about a band that I just found, literally within the last year. And I'm 30 years old now, and I've been digging deep and deep into music for a long time. I've been searching and scouring for music. It's been music for me since I was 15 years old. Basically, since I got my first computer when I was 15. Ever since then, I've been binging music sites like Last.fm, which Last.fm is a site that actually allowed me to find a lot of stoner rock from the 2000s. And that's really what made me start this channel to begin with and got me into music promotion. Without Last.fm, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it nearly as quickly as I did. Just a few years with Last.fm and I was able to start SMOD with a lot of the bands that I had found on that website. And so I highly recommend you check out Last.fm if you haven't ever heard of it or used it. It's not quite the site that it used to be 10 years ago or more, but it's still a pretty fun site to use. But this particular band escaped me until just recently, about a year ago, and I'm just amazed that I never came across these guys before. They're called the Flamin Groovies. Now, the Flamin Groovies are an American rock band from San Francisco, and they formed in 1965. Now, they went through a lot of changes. They changed their style several times in just 5 to 10 year period. They changed a lot. Their first release, their earliest recordings, were like a kind of an old school rock and roll and R&B. They played a lot of covers of old rock songs like the Rockin' Ammonia and the Boogie Woogie Flu, and other old rock songs like The Girl Can't Help It, things like that. And they did that throughout the 60s. But then the 70s rolled around and they started to change. In 1970, in March, they recorded their second album, Flamingo, which really shaped their sound that they would be known for in the coming years. Flamingo started their turn towards bluesy post-punk and really gnarly, almost Rolling Stones and Captain Beefheart type raw garage post-punk. They had a singer and his name was Loney. He was the guitar player as well as the vocalist. And well, they started to put out some really amazing snarling garage punk. Basically, they had an amazing song on their second album, Flamingo, which came out in 1970, called Heading for the Texas Border. And that song is so great. And you should check that song out. It's definitely one of the best songs from Flamingo. It's got some amazing riffs. The riffs are just fantastic. It was in the next year that they recorded and released their best album, Teenage Head, which was released in 1971. Again, it had Loney on vocals and also vocal duties from their guitar player, Cyril Jordan. This album has been compared to the Rolling Stones, and Mick Jagger thought that the Flamin Groovies did a better take on the classic blues and rock and roll than they did. And a lot of people hailed this album and put it right up there with Sticky Fingers from the Rolling Stones and stuff like that. It's listed in the book of 1001 albums you must hear before you die. This album is a fierce, intense, pure garage, post-punk, and blues masterpiece. A lot of it sounds like Captain Beefheart, especially if you're familiar with Safe as Milk. It sounds like Beefheart on Safe as Milk, and so many of their best songs are on it. It kicks off with High Flyin' Baby, which is an absolutely fantastic opening track, and City Lights is also a great follow-up song. And then the second half of the album gets really good. It starts off with one of their most famous songs, the self-titled track Teenage Head. That one is a really, really punky, intense song, and it closes with probably my favorite Flamin Groovies song called Whiskey Woman. And Whiskey Woman is a very much more mellow song, not as fast and intense as a lot of the other songs, but it's also very bluesy and melancholy and atmospheric. The singing is just fantastic on it, so you just have to hear Whiskey Woman. And after Teenage Head, there was a big change with the Flamin Groovies. Their singer Loney left the band, and they changed their style once again to more of a power pop, power punk, contemporary rock direction, going away from the more gritty garage blues type of stuff. They went towards more of an old rock and roll direction from the 60s, but it's still a very good album. It's called Shake Some Action, which was not released until 1976, so 5 years between the albums. And so it took 5 years, and Cyril Jordan took over as the singer. So he was kind of left as the leader of the band from that point on. It was really sad when Roy Loney left, because Roy Loney to me was really the heart and soul of the Flamin Groovies, and I just don't think they ever reached the level that they achieved with Roy ever again. But Shake Some Action is definitely a good album, even without Roy. It kicks off with probably their most famous track, which has gotten a lot of attention over the years, and it's the self-titled track called Shake Some Action. And that is really a great song. There's some other highlights in the album as well. Yes, It's True is really good. I love I Can't Hide, that's really good. And there's a few more tracks that I really love on it. It's not a perfect album. At least half of the album is really solid. But the Flamin Groovies, if you take all their best work and you make a compilation of the best songs from those albums, you have one heck of a compilation of fantastic songs. So I just thought I would mention this band because it took me a long time. So if it took me this long to find it, maybe a lot of you haven't heard of this band either. They are a pretty famous band in the underground rock scene. They have quite a large cult following, but for some reason, I just never found them until now. They did release a few more albums after Shake Some Action throughout the 70s and 80s, but I'm not familiar with those, so I'm not going to be able to comment on those. But definitely check out their two best albums, Teenage Head and Shake Some Action, as well as Flamingo. Those three albums, you're really going to get the best of the Flamin Groovies. So hopefully, if you haven't heard of the Flamin Groovies until now, maybe this will help you check them out for the first time. I would love to be the reason somebody finds this great band. Some really nice, intense, heavy stuff. Great proto-stoner sound at times, especially on Teenage Head. So thank you for listening to this presentation. I will talk to you later. Doom on, guys. Also, just quickly before I go, if you're appreciating these videos, if you've gotten some value out of the videos that I create, you're enjoying the bands that I'm talking about, please consider signing up on Patreon, tossing me a little bit of support. This is my full-time job running SMOD, and it does take a lot of my time to make these videos. There's a lot of editing that goes into it. If you can spare a few bucks a month or whatever, I will give you some pretty good perks, including a big upload document that's alphabeticalized, that has all these albums that used to be on the channel for about an 8-year period. So it's got like 2,000 albums on it. They're all alphabetical order by artist, and they're all links to their Bandcamp right next to it that you can easily click on, and it takes you right to their Bandcamp page so you can listen or download the album. So it's a very useful document. And all you have to do is sign up on my Patreon and you will get that list. I would just need your email and then I will send it to you. So thanks for listening. I'll talk to you soon.